Shade smoke your problems away. Smokepit Fairy Tales Part 4. Chapter 6. Libo Risk. The gang oriented themselves and started the hike back to the hotel. Rain began to soak their clothes and wet their hair. They tried to stay under overhangs as much as possible, but that was to little avail. By the time they got to the hotel, they were soaked. They decided to be cheapskates and got one bedroom all 5 of them could cram into. The hotel was pleasant. The window overlooked the harbor. 2 king-size beds rested against the wall, and the whole place was immaculately clean.
I can smoke in here, right?
Stockton asked as they closed the door. Thatch nodded.
Yeah, I made sure to get that.
Thatch pulled a card out from his wallet and picked up the landline phone in the room. He dialed the number to the duty desk at the ship.
India Company, Corporal Dorchester, how may I help you?
The Marine on the other side of the line greeted him.
Hey, Dorchester, Sergeant Allensworth. I have Corporals McKenzie, Capulet, Royce, and Doc Stockton with me. We're checking in and we're in the hotel room for the night.
Roger that, Sergeant.
Hey, real quick, what time is check-in tomorrow?
07 to 08, Sergeant.
Awesome, thanks.
Thatch hung up the phone.
That's what we're gonna be doing all day Monday.
Hooray for duty!
Capulet droned sarcastically.
What do you guys want to do now?
Chuck asked. Stockton lit up a smoke.
Like what? We're not allowed to leave until morning.
Thatch waved his hand.
Oh, we're not allowed to leave the hotel. Nowhere does it say we must stay inside the room.
There's a bar downstairs.
McKenzie pointed out. Chuck clapped his hands.
Well, then let's get on dry clothes and get down there.
A few minutes later, they were clean, dry, and prepped. They walked into the hotel's club and sat down at the bar. It was dim, with glowing neon blue lights. A handful of patrons sat in the seats at the tables. A band playing old jazz songs and show tunes performed on the small stage in the middle. They had a drummer, an upright bassist, a saxophonist, a guitarist, and a singer who sang in surprisingly good English. Chuck, Thatch, and Stockton ordered whiskey. Capulet and McKenzie ordered beer. They lit cigarettes and enjoyed the show. The band finished the set, and the singer tipped his ascot cap to the audience.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in 15 minutes.
He wore a gray vest over a white shirt. His black tie was loosened and his top button undone. He walked up to the bar and ordered a drink, then turned to the Marines.
You guys a local band?
Yeah, kind of. We're technically on tour, but it's just between Land City and Fragrance Harbor.
Oh, cool. By the way, your English is really good.
The singer smiled.
Thank you. I actually grew up in Albion.
Capulet pulled his head back in a single nod.
That makes sense.
Well, I was born in Malaysia, then my dad moved to England when I was 3 or 4. Then I went straight up to the colony right when it was built. Or at least that's the best I remember it.
He stuck out his hand.
Ken.
Capulet gave Ken his hand.
Joe.
Capulet turned and pointed to the others.
Jorge, Cassandra, Chuck, Thatch.
Ken waved.
Nice to meet you all. You aren't locals, I take it?
The group waved and smiled back. Capulet shook his head.
No, we're just in for the week on business.
You lucked out then. Land City is a great colony.
Yeah, we're having fun so far.
Cool. What are you all doing after the show?
Capulet looked at the others, then back at Ken.
I don't think we had any plans.
Well, we're gonna have an after party at a club down the street. Everyone's welcome.
Sounds good. I'll talk to the guys about it.
Ken smiled and gave Capulet one good pat on the shoulder.
All right, I gotta get back up there. See you in a bit.
Capulet turned around to the group.
So, what do you guys think?
I'm down.
Me too.
As long as we're back in time to call the ship from the landline.
Capulet clapped his hands together.
Sweet.
When the show was over, the band packed up their gear and the club started to empty out. Ken grabbed the crew and they all stuffed inside their van and headed into the night. Stockton looked over at Chuck.
I don't know when the last time I was in an electric car was.
What do you mean?
The bass player asked, curiously.
We're from Mars and they use synthetic fuels there.
I don't know what that means.
The bass player admitted. Stockton tried to think of a good way to explain it.
Well, they have an internal combustion engine, so the fuel for it is explosive.
Oh, like back on Earth?
The bassist finally got it.
Yeah,
How does that work? Mars never had dinosaurs. Don't you need that for oil?
it's mostly hydrogen, but we call it gas. For all time's sake, I guess.
Huh.
They drove down past the taller buildings to an area by the lake littered with palm trees and statues of lions and dragons. Ken parked the van and everyone jumped out. They walked up to a lone, square white building. Ken whispered something to the bouncer and the doors were opened for them. The inside of the club was vibrant. The walls were black, the columns and bars were white. The place wasn't more than 2,000 square feet, but there were easily 500 people crammed inside. Loud, repetitive electronic music blared through the building. Bright flashing lights strobed and lasers cut through the air. Ken led the group to a standing table in the back, then motioned to them that he'd be back in a minute. Before anyone could get settled in, he returned with a bottle of whiskey and a couple of short Asian women. Everyone smiled at each other and tried to introduce themselves, but the music was too loud, so they resorted to making hand gestures and funny faces. One of the women grabbed McKenzie and whisked him away to the dance floor. Stockton dove into the crowd without prompting. Capulet and Chem tried to bullshit and have a good time over the thunderous sounds coming from the subwoofer. The rest of the band scattered with the other women who had shown up. Thatch and Chuck downed their whiskeys and tried to scream at each other over the noise.
Why did we come here?
Thatch could barely understand him.
Pussy?
We could have stayed at the bar and got that.
They were all middle-aged, overweight tourists.
So?
To get out for a while?
Yeah, but we're just standing here trying to have a conversation at a loud-ass club.
Thatch shrugged, handed Chuck his empty glass, and weaved his way into the crowd. Chuck rolled his eyes, put the glasses on the table, and found a girl who looked to be half fluorescent and half Asian to grind up next to. Stockton moved through the sea of screaming twerkers and hoppers. Her dance was somewhere between disco and two-step. She was out swinging and stepping and didn't care who saw how poorly she couldn't dance. Somebody's body came up from behind her and started rubbing next to her. She didn't mind. She was having fun. The person behind her slid their arm onto her waist. She continued dancing. She looked down to see thick fingers coming from a hairy hand. She ignored it and kept moving. The hand made its way over to her belly, and she kept grinding on the person behind her. A few minutes later, the hand moved down towards her jeans. As soon as it started going under her belt, she wrapped her fingers around it and placed it on her hip. Stockton didn't think too much of it until he tried again. She squeezed her hand around the arm, shook her head no, and moved the hand to her waist. The hand shot down again full force. The fingers got halfway down her panties before Stockton muttered,
Oh, fuck no.
Flipped open the knife she had in her pocket, and drove it into the person behind her's thigh. His scream was barely audible over the booming music. She tried to pull the knife out of the leg, but the tip was stuck in the bone. She tightened her grip on the handle and slapped her ass on the person's crotch. The force of him falling back let her rip out the blade. She turned around to find the person behind her was the sax player from the band. She shook her head with a grimace, folded her knife, and went to find the Marines. The saxophone player squeezed his thigh, hopped, and screamed. People around him thought that it was some kind of weird new dance move and imitated him. Stockton found Thatch and pulled him down to scream in his ear.
We have to go, like now.
Thatch didn't ask for an explanation. He grabbed Stockton's arm, maneuvered around the club to find the other Marines, and led them outside.
So what the fuck's going on?
McKenzie blurted out as they stumbled outside. He looked down and saw blood on the back of Stockton's pants.
You fucking on the rag stack?
Fucking no. Fucking creep-ass sax bitch was trying to shove his hand down my pants, so I stabbed him.
Fuck!
Thatch let out a loud groan and ran his fingers through his hair.
Well, what do we do now?
He looked around the area for any signs of taxis or buses. There weren't any.
Well, we can't stay here.
No shit.
Ken stumbled out of the door. He saw the Marines and pointed at them.
What the fuck was that? I invite you all out for a good time and you not.
Capulet shut him up by introducing his fist to Ken's face. Ken fell out cold. Capulet dug around in Ken's pockets until he found the keys to the van. He stood up, scouted for the van, and when he found it, started jogging.
Come on, let's fucking go.
The others caught up to him. They piled in the van and almost tore the rubber off the tires, burning out of the parking lot. They drove up the street and stashed the van in an alleyway about a mile from the hotel. They walked in the direction of the club for a few hundred yards, hooked up to the side of the colony and passed their destination by a few blocks, and then hooked back. They came in one of the side doors and crept up to the room. Thatch checked his watch. They had 15 minutes to call the duty on ship and check in. He picked up the phone, called them in as accounted for, and then passed out on the floor next to the others.
Hey peeps, what up? Thanks for listening to another chapter of Chain Smoke Your Problems Away. Chapter, 6? Yeah, Libo Risk. Anyway, I'd like to thank the cast. Chuck LaVoki as the narrator, Andrew Stockton as Chuck, Amy Bedell as Cassandra, Stockton Travis Weidemann as McKenzie, Steve Agostine as Capulet, Ryan History Daddy Day as Ken, Matt Kupcikecivous as the bass player, and Tyler Brance as Dorchester. Alright, I'd like to thank the Patreon people who get these chapters as soon as I get done with them, and I'd like to thank the YouTube members who get these when I upload them, and I'm trying to make that a little sooner. Notice that this is going up on Sunday instead of Wednesday. I mean, the general public will see it on Wednesday. But you YouTube people get to see it on, I think, Sunday. Is today Sunday? I'm going to try this, have this uploaded today. That was a sentence. Anyway, I'd also like to thank people who've gotten the War Chest, which is the box sets of these books. And, and they come signed with, like stickers and cards and embroidered patches and all that. I put a pin in that map for you somewhere, wherever it goes. And I'd like to thank you, which is everybody else, for tuning in. Also, a little bit of news. I started a second channel that's all just the background music for this. The audiobook music that's in the back. You can't always hear it as the chapter plays, but, it's back there. And now I got an opportunity for you there to, go listen to it there. And I'm uploading a few songs a week there, 2 or 3, to work up that YouTube algorithm. I got some fun stuff coming up there. I got some fun stuff up there now. Anyway, go check it out. There's a link down in the thing, I think. But speaking of the algorithm, so on Chainsmoke Your Problems Way, I think right now I'm editing either chapter 19 or 20. And this book has 39 chapters in it. And they should be done in June. The last one should be uploaded in June of 2025. But I'm far enough ahead to where I think I'm gonna be able to stick to my guns on my plan for this. So if in June, when Chainsmoke Your Problems Way is done airing on YouTube, if at that point this channel has 10,000 followers, when we get to Smokepit Fairy Tale 6, Six Pistols and a Dagger, I will release a chapter a day there instead of weekly for that book. But I'm gonna leave that in your hands, so if that's something you wanna see happen, go tell your friends. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you got a war chest or you're on Patreon or a YouTube member, keep a lookout in the name for your credits. Why are the credits in your name? Keep a lookout in the credits for your name. That's what I meant to say. All right, y'all have a good one. Here are your bloopers. Semper.
Tap that R. I see waveforms!
For the room night. We're in the hotel for the room night.
They decided to be cheapskates and got one bedroom for all 5 of them cramming. God damn, I can't read! Had to get that out anyway. Yeah.
I've got to add this in just for the meme abilities. You don't have to use it. I'm just Ken.
One of the Riemann, twerkers and hoppers sounds like some kind of specific drug addict, and it is. The drug is EDM music and alcohol.
I don't know how to do a knockout sound, so,
And I said, Stockton cannot be molested. She turned around to find the person behind her was, oh no, it was the sax player. I have context now.
Chapter 6, Libo Risk.
Well, no. Well, no. Well, they have an internal combustion engine, so the fuel for it is explosive. I can't get this. So fucking annoying.
Booyah! My ultimate summer getaway, complete with water slide, blood slicks, knives in the thighs, and dead sex guys. I don't know, might have hit a femoral.
Well, they have an internal combustion engine.
All right, that was fun, groovy. Short chapter. I'm gonna go ahead and bounce this before it gets any longer.